meeting the Operations Committee to order. Please stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Need a motion to approve.
Second.
That's 3-0. We have no public for comment. We have minutes, special call June 24th, July 8th and July 10th minutes in the folder. Yeah, nothing.
Move we approve the June 24th minutes.
Second.
It's 3-0. Okay, we're moving on to the HR operations.
Hold on, Dave. You have a question?
Well, just one thing on, I believe it's the June 24th minutes, we do need to make sure we, there's the PE on facility use that we haven't gone over the minutes in the board meeting yet, so we do need to make sure that's board budget. Because those, that's a PE that needs to be approved. Because we've missed it the last couple of board meetings.
We talked about it.
Yes, in the, I believe the June 24th, or the last meeting we had is when facilities use was approved, and we haven't brought that up in the last two board meetings.
July.
Let's see here, which one was
That was
facilities?
the public use facilities update,
Yes, and that was a PE attached to that.
7.7,
Yep,
the highlights.
yep, July 10th, yes. So that hasn't been mentioned in the board meeting, so we do need to go over those meetings so that that PE can be approved.
Oh, and which P is that one?
Facilities use, that was July 10th. It passed 3-0, but it hasn't been brought up in board meeting.
Facility.
And there's a note that says the committee would like to review the current AR.
Yes, and we're planning on bringing that back. We're not quite ready to bring that back, but the PE was still approved. Just FYI.
Okay, so we need to move that forward to the board, is what you're.
Yes,
Minutes are okay.
yes, yeah. Just want to make sure you
Move that to the
in
board, not
on
push it to the agenda meeting. The agenda setting is already done.
Or surely, as long as you have an operations committee portion of that, I don't know if you.
I'm not even sure if the.
Yeah, the operations is on
Operations
there.
on there?
Yeah.
Nothing's, just as reported,
So
doesn't
we
say.
can bring
Put it there.
forward the PD 7.7 during the ops, from the ops committee report. Well, I hope I remember that.
I'll write it down, please. And Molly, did you get that?
Well, you'll tell me about it. This meeting is, when is the meeting? Tuesday? Is it Tuesday?
8 days from
8
today.
days from today. Mine's on the tables. Okay, now we can move on to the HR and operation. PE 5, is that you guys?
That is me.
Yes.
This P, Mr. Chair, you want me to talk about this PE?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This PE we report on in November, and it's in the form of a report that we provide to the board for information. And it includes, and I guess I'll go back and talk about the original intent, what the original board asked us to report on. So all we really report on is recruiting and retention And then we hit on nepotism and employee awards and employee grievances. So it really is just, it doesn't cover the entire HR processes. It just really focuses on recruitment and retention and development of teachers. So I guess my question is that still the will of the board that this report remains specific to those areas?
Yes, sir. John.
Alice, number 5, inform the board when initially, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes,
All right. It doesn't say here that if he's recommending, if he or she is recommending relative of a board to administer, that he informs the board. So that would leave the person after the fact to be able to say, well, I didn't have to tell you.
that's correct. How would you like to change that? How would you like to change that?
Well, I would just say inform the board when initially recommending individuals to administrative level positions or general contracting who are immediately family members of the board, the superintendent, executive, principals. People on the board won't automatically know if a relative of another board member is trying to get a job at that level. Correct?
Not necessarily, because since this is a stipulation, I would bring it to the board before that person is actually contracted.
But it doesn't say inform the board that the relative immediate family member is of a board member. So ergo, the superintendent could be recommending my brother to an administrative position, okay? And if I don't say anything to the board, the superintendent would be under no obligation to tell the rest of the board. And that may be considered a conflict by the Ethics Commission if a member of the board members immediately family is related to that position. Just trying to tighten it up, that's all.
It's definitely an ethics
Yeah, I was
violation.
gonna
It's
say-
definitely an ethics violation if the board member does not recuse themselves.
Right.
Right, that's what I was thinking. It may be, the onus may be on the board member, actually, because that would be an ethics violation. And if you're assuming, how is the superintendent might not know who's related to who either. But I definitely, from our school law conference, that came up about, that you would have to, that would be a conflict of interest and, yeah. So, I think some of the burden is actually on the board member. I don't think it is exclusively on the superintendent.
Right.
Okay?
Yes,
Let's, that's certainly part of the mix. However, if a board member does not recuse themselves, and the board goes ahead and approves the hire, the board member later on gets in trouble for not recusing themselves, but the person's still hired. And the hiring action is tainted.
yes, what?
Just to move this forward, I don't see a problem with putting that, if that's the verbiage he want to, if she don't mind putting that in there. I don't have a problem putting that in there, but so we can move this forward. If that's the verbiage she wants. I mean, if you wanna, I mean,
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So, does the hiring papers, is there some line there that you have to say, disclose who you're related to in the district and all that?
Yes, this is only related to a board member.
Okay, so
That's
that's,
on the application.
So all I'm asking for is the insertion of one word, the board, in front of the superintendent.
but I just wasn't sure how they would know that they were related, but they're asked on the application.
They're asking the application, yes.
I was just gonna say, that's actually up to the board member. I remember some years ago, we had a company that my niece's husband worked for. And I recused myself because I knew that, so, I could sit there and just say nothing, but I did. Because you can have someone even get hired, and the board members sit there and don't say nothing at all.
Lisa's husband is not in the list of immediate family members. But you did the right thing, you know that. That's one way to avoid ethics problems, is to actually just do the right thing. Okay. Now, you started this off with a question, Alice, what was it?
Are these indicators that's on this PE still important to the board? Are there any you want to add or subtract?
While we're bringing this PE forward, you just bringing this PE forward just to inform the board of this PE, or is the board giving a motion on this PE?
No, all I'm doing is asking, this PE is already in existence. This is what I will complete and present to you in November. My question is, would you like for it to remain the same, or would you like for it to be changed?
I just have one wording request. The substance to me is fine.
Okay. David, do you need a motion for PE?
That we move the board accept the PE. We could do that, but I want.
No, well, what I was thinking of, are we gonna make a batch recommendation to send it to the board, or are we gonna do a recommendation per each?
I would say per.
Huh?
I would say per each, it just
Okay.
makes more sense. If you do it in a batch, then it looks like you're trying to sneak something in. Several times on staff evaluation, it talks about the results policies on the back page. And the only person that's relevant to is the superintendent under our new thing.
Okay.
And plus, there is no results policy right now until we develop one. So I think we could probably take that part out about the results,
Results policy.
because it's just not applicable to anybody but the superintendent.
Also, but, quick question, I thought that we were doing human resources and, Mr. Odding, and it's two separate, different, committee forms.
Well, we're doing the HR stuff first, so that Alice can leave. But, I hear you, but,
I thought we were separating those meetings.
yeah, but we already approved the agenda, so we gotta kind of stick with it now. But we can, when we do our recap and future topics, let's talk about it.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Okay, do we have a motion to recommend the board accept this PE 5?
You looking for a motion?
Yeah,
Move
correct.
that we recommend to the full board PE 5 pending insertion of the word board into section A5 and the elimination of C.1. You wanted to take one out, right?
No, I just want to take the word results out, it says
Oh, all
C1,
right.
C2.
So I think though, it's not really approving the PE, it's approving that this is the framework for the PE. So it would be that you're changing this document And ultimately, that's then Alice's job to go back and modify the PE as per this, so it's not really approving the PE.
But that's the board has to.
But the board, does the board have to approve this part?
Yeah, it says right on
think
the
so.
bottom.
The substance of the PE, I think the board probably has to approve.
So you're gonna bring all of these forward? Okay.
I think so. Because I thought I had seen before that we were gonna review all the PEs to see if that they're appropriate and necessary.
Yes,
So,
I said that.
So then this
That's
would
why we
have
have
to
this.
Each
be
committee
revised
is supposed to look
today.
at it.
like each print is supposed to.
Well, I would like to possibly dig into this some more, and I'm not prepared to do that today. So I can't second any motion on this, so I can't support this motion. Because I would like to look more into these PEs, and I'm not prepared to do that today. So I can't move forward with any of
The
that.
second is also just to allow discussion.
I'm okay. Well, I'll give a second. I mean, yeah. I mean, why? Give a second.
You're asking that we table this to the next meeting?
Yeah, yes, pretty much, yeah. I'm asking this.
You move that we table?
Yeah, I move that we table this to the next meeting.
Second.
Okay. Okay. Let's move to the next meeting. We'll give you a chance to make changes now. Right.
I'll bring it.
Okay. And now we move on to PD 6, treatment of students' discipline. A lot of papers are moving, but I don't see who's in the front.
Mr. Grissom, will you be talking about your,
I had no idea what that's for. I was talking about the clear bag policy. That's something totally different than what that is.
Well, I can talk about.
That's under student athletics, I believe.
I can talk about one of these indicators
under your,
under PE 6 because Kiki Swift was in our department and she works specifically with number three, government programs to promote health, mental health, wellness, and nutrition. And that's a part of the student services department, so that's probably why it's in your batch today. For any changes or suggestions to it.
If you're reviewing PEs, that may be one comment is how does this now fit in with our structure?
and then with the Safe School Act, the things that we do with that, Mr. Grissom? We do the trainings and the craze and the drills that we do.
Right, because I think it says on here that chief instructional services officer is the one that puts on this.
It's a mix, yeah, I guess now Alice has some and she has some.
I just have the
You
number
just have
three
the
and she
one?
has the rest.
Are any of these under David and Wendy? So it's kind of
Like all of us need to contribute to it.
So my suggestion would be that we break this up into the areas of responsibility.
Yes.
I don't think it's really workable as it is. Do you think?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Yeah, does everybody agree that as a piece of this, we should really
kind of proving right now, it's not really workable.
break this out and everybody take the piece that's theirs. And then it gets broken out by 6-1, 6-2, 6, whatever.
Okay.
Because right now it has the instructional services officer reporting on all this stuff and it doesn't seem
No,
appropriate.
that's right.
You said,
Right, that is what this CISO is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
How about if I move that we table PE 6 till the next meeting in order to divide the discussion categories?
yeah,
That's a good
I'll second that motion.
Yeah, and in the interim, I'd like everybody to identify their pieces
Yeah.
and bring it back and talk with their pieces identified so that we can break it out appropriately.
Yeah.
And then we also want to change this this is a fruitful review. I'm glad. Okay, PE seven, which is facilities, I think that has a home.
Yep, I got that one. So if you look on the reporting, in July, I actually just reported on the public use of facilities as we talked about. So that would be, I believe it's item, it's on the back sheet. Item 7. And so you have just, seen how the facilities used and approved that. We did want to make some changes to the AR. Some of the other items that I report, that you'll see on there, priority for 8% projects. My two big reports are, coming in November is when we bring, as everybody knows, the 10-year plan. This book has, that's right after the 45 days, so we do all our projections, and then that is when we update the 10-year plan. So this comes in November, and then in May is when the board actually votes on the plan for the upcoming year. So you see that on there. Other items that report on are cleaning and maintenance, which is going to be coming up in September. So we're about to start surveying our principals to get their feedback on how maintenance and custodial is doing. And then review boundaries is in November. And so those are the reports I have. You see the items listed. So any questions, comments on needs or things we could do better, more efficiently?
I find all the areas that you report on are just valuable. I really do. I think it's stuff we like to know about. Even cleaning and maintenance, which
Yeah, and I was gonna
is
say,
valuable, because we get principal feedback on that.
and I was trying to go what you said exactly. Also on the cleaning and maintenance, I would also like to know what's the requirements of these contracts that we give out, because I do remember that. I think we extended GCA the contract last time, and we questioned whether we want to look into that upon whether we want to review that contract upon updated moving forward. So I wanted to know when is that contract up for review?
Well, there are two different contracts, and I don't have that right. They're both 3-year contracts with 2 1-year extensions. Sounds like what you're asking is in September, when I come to report on cleaning and maintenance, that I report on the contracts and status and where they are at that time, which I'll gladly
That's what
do.
you're asking.
Yes, from my understanding, last time I remember, we extended one of those contracts last time because of timing, and this time I want to really be able to digest it and understand it.
Yeah, that was maintenance. Yes,
Right,
we
right.
extended the maintenance contract for 1 more year. I
Right.
believe it was in July,
Right.
so it'll be coming up next July.
Okay. And it's
Custodial, I don't
This is a
know.
discussion we can have when you bring this before the board.
Right,
in
exactly, that's
September.
right.
So, but we think it's a valuable report. We want all
Oh,
that to stay on.
I agree.
Robert,
Yes, sir.
number 3, provided the minimum biannual updates on construction and renovations. Do you think that's stringent enough?
Right now, we're doing it every time we meet.
Well,
So,
then-
if you notice, we've been doing it construction.
Then I don't think we should say provide at a minimum biannual updates. It only commits you to 2.
Yes, I mean, one of the things is when it was in the board structure, it was more, we did it twice a year, but now that you're doing committees, it's easy.
Well, then we should change it to reflect that, don't you think?
Yep, that would be fine.
Okay. The other thing I'd suggest is that you change number 4, that you recommend land transactions to the committee. And the committee makes a recommendation to the board.
Now, what would you like in number 3? I mean, we do them monthly, but like last month, we missed a
I'd say-
meeting. and,
I'd say provide
You wanna do quarterly?
required by the operations committee.
Yeah, and then right, I agree, and then we miss a meeting, then we will do it, if we miss a meeting or something like that, but that should normally happen, then it will go to the full board.
So I think what I'm hearing is provide as required for the operations committee, and then a minimum biannually, is that what we're? Take
No.
that out completely, just as required by operations committee?
What are you asking for on number 3, John?
I think a quarterly report should be the maximum minimum.
So provide as required by the operations committee and at a minimum quarterly updates. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's fine. I want to answer that.
Now, particularly if the referendum passes and you've got a citizens committee to deal with, they're not gonna sit for anything less than a quarterly.
Right. I think my plan is continue the
Because
monthly.
I assume that we'll be looking to a report from that committee to us as well.
Yeah, we'll have to set up the structure of that committee once it's formed.
Well,
You will need to set up the structure of that committee.
yeah, I'm saying, a point of order, that's, off topic. And the other one that he made mention of was number 4. Mr. Ali?
Yes.
Oh, maybe that's your first right, my bad.
Yeah, just change the word board to committee is what he asked,
Okay.
which that's no problem.
Okay. So we look for a motion here to, Madam Chairman, excuse me, look for a motion to accept, PE 7, is that what we're looking for here?
It's not really being presented yet.
Okay, well, Yeah, I figure
We all agree on the changes.
yeah,
You
yeah.
agree,
yeah,
we all agree, so you'll make those changes and bring it back.
okay.
That moves us to AR updates. Start with 31, extra class activities and organization.
This is different from what we had. Okay, yeah, just.
You said there are some additions.
At the risk of dating myself, was this once called extracurricular activities?
No, just extra class activities and organizations, admin, right, SS31. We can
What is the
name it
difference?
extra class, extracurricular. I mean, it's like a synonym to me. Y'all think extracurricular sounds better? It was previously referred to as extra class activities or extracurricular. Maybe extracurricular sounds a lot more up to date, don't you think? Extracurricular sounds better?
It's not part of the curriculum, it's extracurricular.
Well, it includes things like, being in a club or organization, or being in a curriculum-related club, being in an honor society, a service club.
Maybe we can move on to the
Sure,
substance.
yeah, so on page 2, we have that participating, the students must follow code of conduct and be a full-time student. And we revised it to state that the grade point average has to be a weighted GPA in accordance with the BCSD Administrative Reg IS 43 grading assessment system, because the uniform grading system had been revised. That was one of the ARs that we had talked about before. And we also included the Beaufort County Board of Education policies at the end. Because that's one of the things we're supposed to be doing now, is relating how every AR is reflected in one of the Board of Education policies. So that's what we did with this one. This one was more of minor changes. The other ones have more substantive changes in them, so.
Excuse me.
No, on this, we need a motion to recommend the board accept.
A quick question.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you said that you changed the second, you saw the second page, what was changing on? Could you repeat yourself? I couldn't hear you, it was a little.
No, we made some
It's the
revisions.
red.
I met with Robert, we made
It's the
some
red.
revisions from the prior, whatever was given to you. This was what Robert and I worked on together, so I wanted to give you the most up-to-date revision, so.
And the reason why I asked that because when I was in a workshop this weekend, and one thing that they said was that even though a student, and I believe our code of conduct said if a student does not attend school, that does not exclude them from not participating in sports.
Right,
And I want to make sure.
Got it.
Right, yeah, right. I just want to make sure
Yes,
that
sir.
that is in here as well.
we actually put that in the student athletics, and we quoted that proviso that they talked about with us this weekend.
That's right.
And what we did under the athletic, do you want me to just refer to that real quickly?
Well,
We can put it in here too if you think, Mr. Smith, we can put it in there as well. But let me just, can I tell you what we did in the student athletics, because it's very specific. So just for the benefit of the board members that weren't able to be present, so this weekend at the School Boards Association, Barbara Drayton, who has worked with the department for many years. Do you have a new copy?
No, yeah,
Oh,
thank you.
Okay. When we were there, Ms. Drayton did a presentation about special needs, and this proviso went into effect on July 1, and I want to read it to you because it's very helpful, and it was from the Director of Governmental Affairs in the fiscal year 2019-2020, a new proviso, 1.87, special needs sports participation requires that students who are recipients of the exceptional needs scholarship and meet the codified definitions shall be eligible to participate in sports offered at the public school the child is zoned to attend. So if y'all will look with us on the athletic, we have that in here. On page 3 and number 7. Number 7, item C, students who meet the definition of exceptional needs child and the definition of qualifying student shall be eligible to participate in any sport offered at the school for which the child is zoned to attend. And then at the back on pages 5, we have listed in there those statutes, section 12-6, 3790A2, definition of exceptional needs child, section 12-6, 3790A5, definition of qualifying student. So we included that in there.
And excuse me, and also one more question, Ms. Carter. I remember she said she said I think someone also mentioned something. Excuse me about that just because a student missed that a student did not attend school that the day of a football game, that still does not mean that does not mean that they cannot participate in that activity after they didn't come to school that day. And I believe she mentioned something about that as well.
Well,
Let me intersect.
yes, sir.
I think you were talking about a homebound student, and the deal
Yeah,
was
that's
if they had
exactly.
a doctor's clearance,
Right.
they could participate
Right.
in the athletics, even though they were homebound. If they had a doctor's clearance to participate, they could. You couldn't say you can't participate because you're homebound.
Right.
If you brought a doctor.
Okay.
Yeah, it was referring to that
Okay.
But
situation.
Okay.
And Mr. Smith, what we put in here on page 3, but we can clarify that about the homebound, we can put that in there. And I think that's a really great idea, we could state that, but what we have in there that we didn't have in our prior AR is we have a homeschool student participation, and extracurricular activities to state that a student that resides in our district, who's been taught with homeschool, is eligible to participate in our sports program
Right.
too, if they'd like to, so. Yeah, but I can add that in,
Thank you.
Mr. Smith, I think it's a really good idea.
Thank you. Appreciate
You
it.
remember the discussion?
Yeah, that if they had, if they were on homebound and their doctor gave them permission, then they would be able to attend an athletic event, isn't that what they
No,
said?
it's
They could actually participate in
They actually
sports.
participate in sports,
They
yes, ma'am.
wanted light participation.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
light
Okay,
activity.
well, they had to be released by the
They had-
physician.
But
I
this-
think that was the
Right.
basic.
Yeah,
the point was, the
The physician had to
was
give
the
the-
physician's
Right.
call.
Right,
Right.
so whether they could.
The school's
Not the
call.
school.
So you could still be on homebound,
Yeah.
but you could participate in an athletic event.
If you have medical clearance.
Okay,
Medical clearance being required. Now, going back to the
but I'll add that
So
in.
the
Okay.
previous AR, it says 31. Did you want that added to this, or are you happy with it being in?
Oh, I'm happy with it being in there, yeah, I'm happy with it being in there. I just was wondering if I can see, yeah, that's fine. Yes, sir, it doesn't need to be
So then I
there
think
twice.
We are, I
Okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
think the document that says 31, which was the previous one. I want to get that out of the way before we forget it.
What was wrong now?
The extra class activities and organization.
Oh, yes, sir.
I wanted to make sure we're done with that.
Did y'all think we should call it
I'm sorry, I
extracurricular
caught something
activities?
reading.
No,
Well, you say extracurricular.
it says extra class and this is extracurricular.
Yeah, it's got both in there.
Extracurricular. Or make us older folks happy. So now, when they become before the board, we don't, do we accept the ARs or do we just say, thank you?
They're just supposed to be shown to us.
Right,
We
they're
want to
just
review
showing- so
them.
we,
We want to be able to vote on the
so our
but we do
report
vote on
would
the.
be just that we
review them, we
reviewed
do.
it and
Yeah.
made changes.
Because the
But they are
policy says that the
Yeah.
policy says the
We're not
superintendent
recommending
presents
that.
you all with the ARs,
Right.
and our policy.
The crucial thing is this, the board satisfied with the AR or the support is
The board
tangentially
policy.
connected to the board policy.
Oh, yeah.
That's the,
That's good. I just want to make sure that this will just be part of the report, that we reviewed it and requested changes that have been made. Yes, ma'am.
So I have a question, this is just trying to educate me. So on this one that we're talking, the second one, SS 36.
Oh, that was 36.
So what we just talked about was 7C, the special ed students, and how they'd be eligible to participate in any sport offered at the school for which the child is zoned. So are we talking about, like PE type of things, you know, where they can play volleyball? But I would think, I mean, a lot of the sports are selective in terms of tryouts or whatever.
Yes, they have
So how do
to be,
you distinguish that?
well, what Ms. Drayton explained, that's actually stated, what I have in this AR is what is in the law. And we may need to put a qualifier in there because Ms. Drayton did state you can participate, you can be eligible to participate, however, you must be able to meet the qualifications to participate. You know, for example, there are certain sports that you can't, you're not able to participate in because you can't meet the participation requirements as far as you may have, like, if you have a physical disability and you're in a wheelchair, then you'd be able to play football. I mean, you can participate in the sports as long as you can meet, as long as you can meet the criteria to play it, you have to
But
try
some
out
are
like
also
everybody else.
selective in terms of, you may meet all the criteria, but what if you're, you know, they're gonna take the top 10 performing students or athletes on this particular team, and you may be number 15, that may meet the qualifications, but they're only gonna, you know, accept 10 into the.
And many students who do meet the qualifications aren't selected even though they are
Right, so
qualified.
don't you think there should be something there?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, do you have
It's
any
not clear.
suggested language?
That's
that
where
would
the
make it-
lawsuits live.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Lawsuits live
That's right, we
there.
don't-
Between the
Yeah.
wording and
Yeah,
your
the wording, and I've got to make that sound.
Yes, sir.
That's fine. I was gonna say, what we finished, I know you went to, what we finished with SS, 31?
All right, I thought we were done that.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's why I just want clarification
So
because we
now
jumped,
we jump to 36.
Okay, I just want
And now
clarification.
I'm going to rewrite this language under 7C. Thank you. On page 4, what we have here This is an addition.
On SS 36?
Yes, sir, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
On page 4 of SS 36, number 11, dissemination of student athletics, administrative regulation. The superintendent designates the chief operating officer as his or her designee to be responsible for disseminating this administrative regulation and supporting information to student, staff, parents, legal guardians, coaches, athletic directors, volunteers, and members of the community through means to include but not limited to student staff handbooks, athletic handbooks, our BCSD website, and parent notifications. Because we want to make sure that everybody understands what the requirements are, as well as this South Carolina High School League has requirements to participate, and so to help our students and their families understand what is required.
Excuse me real quick. Mr. I thought you said we weren't gonna talk about the clear bag policy today.
I didn't say that, no.
Oh,
It is in this AL.
Oh, okay. Okay, I just thought we were gonna discuss it. Okay, that's fine.
We're moving on to 12?
No, sir. No, sir.
No, I'm just saying, the next section of this AR is the clear bag policy.
Okay.
That's the very next
Okay.
revenue one.
Okay.
Yes, and I just wanted to mention really quickly that I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Stratos. This is a student handbook that one of the lawyer from Lorraine County gave me, and we always want to think of ways that we can improve our communication with our community and our families. So that's what we're trying to do.
Before you jump ahead, can I talk about, just so everybody knows, the change we're making to 4, as far as GPA requirements? So what we've done is change the requirements here to match the South Carolina High School Leagues. The biggest change is that in the past, we said that the GPA for fall sports had to be a 2.0 for the spring. South Carolina High School League, why they do it is it's a weighted average for the year. So here we're aligning with the South Carolina High School League, just changing the GPA requirement to 2.0. So what that means is for fall sports, your GPA for the previous year had to be a weighted average of 2.0 instead of spring semester.
I think we're on clear bag.
Well, I just wanted, before we skipped over it, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew what that change was.
So basically, we're just matching state standards across the board, because right now we are above state standard, correct?
No, we're still above state standard. Just the difference is our setup was a little different than theirs. South Carolina High School League is a 1.0. We're still a 2.0, which is higher. But there's confusion in between what the South Carolina High School League requires and what we had required. And my understanding is we went back and forth, whether it's all about fall sports. Do fall sports go on a previous spring GPA or the previous year average GPA? South Carolina High School League goes on year average, so we're doing the same with it here.
What, can we have the exact wording in the South Carolina?
We're pretty close to when.
Right. I don't want it close. I want if we get the exact, and there's no conversation about it, because then now if we have the exact if we have the exact verbiage, then there's no questions. Versus us writing it, then there's question of, it could be, what's your perception of it? With the exact writing, then there's no perception.
I'm not sure, it was like a 9.
She was
Okay,
planning.
I think Will, to answer, maybe this clarifies it, but Robert's saying we're not aligned with the South Carolina, whatever it is, high school league, because we require a higher GPA. So it's not gonna be exactly the same. The rest of the wording is the same, but our GPA level is 2.0 instead of 1.0, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't think it can be aligned because we have a different standard, we have a higher standard.
Okay. I proceeded around. I thought Robert was saying that the GPA is well, that is something in the future I would like to look at, because I've had parents, but I'll leave that alone. I've had parents who have some kind of concerns about that, about the GPA versus us having a different standard of GPA versus, the state, being that, you know, some of those kids, they go to school and sports is what fuel the education part of their children's life, so that is a concern of mine, but, at this point in time, I will say that for another day, another day conversation.
Okay, John?
This is, I have to ask this annually, so I'll accept a short answer. What do we do with the student who is working up to their ability and maximum effort, who still doesn't attain a 2.0 and wants to play football?
We would tell them that they need to focus on their grades to get it up, because if they're under a 2.0, they would not be allowed to play football.
What if the fact is they'll never get a 2.0, no matter how hard they work?
I don't know who could determine that.
Some one of our educational professionals ought to
The
be,
principal, the
ought
teacher.
to be able to decide this.
We have,
I don't think you ever want to decide that somebody will never be able to achieve a 2.0.
Well,
Because then you're labeling people.
well, then you're saying they're probably special needs. And if they're on a diploma track or a non-diploma track, if they are on a diploma track and they're special needs, they're treated the same as everybody else, so they would have to meet the 2.0 requirement.
That's not true. And let me tell you why that's not true. Because,
I think I'll let John.
okay.
All right, what if they're not special needs, but they're still not gonna make 2.0, and you're gonna stigmatize them by telling the world that they're too stupid to play football? Does that make sense to you?
can I say something?
I think,
When this was first put in play, we had students that for a while they couldn't, but eventually did, they worked hard. And that was the reason why Dr. McCord said he was not gonna change it. And I think it's best for the students. If these students wanna play sports, they're gonna get that 2.0. And we haven't had no problem yet in this district.
I don't wanna belabor the point, but I've just heard time and time again, stories that people come forward and say, I would not have made it through school if it wasn't for sports. Well, making it through school doesn't mean 3.5, it means making it through school. And whether it's a 1.5 or a 3.5, whatever. And I don't think that we should be stigmatizing students by putting such a barrier in their participation if they are working up to their ability. And I think it's a gross assumption to say that those kids don't exist. Just had to say that, I say it every year.
Okay.
Uh,
Go ahead, Lynn.
what I was gonna say, moving forward, at some point in time, I would just like us to revisit this policy in terms of recreational things we have around here, crime rates, because believe it or not, this policy, this policy, it could put pressure in those areas, so, I would agree with Mr. Dowling. I would like for us to kind of, at some point in time, to bring this conversation forward and revisit this. I do understand what Mr. Campbell was saying, but, you know, there's that 1% that's out there that I'm concerned about. But we can move forward.
All right, A, B, C, D, E, and F are also new.
well, this is
A, B,
all,
C, D, E, it's all the same.
it all comes from the South Carolina High School League. That's where Wendy's taken and pretty much copied verbatim.
I took it from
Okay.
Directly out of the
I just want to make sure you move forward, you don't have to move back.
Right, so, but the clear bag policy is in this?
We're going, that's where we're going.
Okay, that's what I'm going with.
I'm just trying to make sure we're not going to go backwards again.
I appreciate everybody's intelligence, but I bet I got a little off point. Yeah, on the clear bag, I hope.
On to Roman numeral 12, clear bag policy, the headline of this mayor.
Robert, definition of, say, feminine hygiene products? Do they have to be in a clear bag? Or they go in a medical bag, so they qualify for that?
It does allow for a small clutch or wallet, and I know I have 2 girls, and what they would do is put it in a small clutch and put that in the clear bag. So you're allowed, it says in here, a tote that does not exceed 4.5 inches by, actually it says 4.5 feet, I mean, that's an edit there. 4.5, it should be 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches. So you're allowed to carry a small, and that's,
I wish I sold tape measures, honest to God.
so, I can tell you, I've gone to athletic events with my girls, and, if you go to a college event or a professional event, that's required, and they have a little clutch that they carry stuff in. It goes in the clear bag.
Okay, I think the whole thing is a little excessive, but let me ask a specific question around number 4. Anyone found at an athletic event with a non-clear bag will be required to leave the event immediately and will not be allowed back into athletic events for the remainder of the season. Is that a little harsh?
Very, very.
Let's say grandpa and grandma from Iowa are visiting, okay? They don't know about the rule. And you're gonna throw them out of the game because he's got a pack of cigarettes in his pocket?
Well, a pack of cigarettes wouldn't be, so what this is trying to get.
Well, it's very clear that his tobacco products are taboo. So maybe I picked a poor choice, but
What this is, so everybody would be checked as they walked in, and what this is somebody that's trying to smuggle in a bag, is what it is. So what it is the, kind of the Boston bomber thing, trying to stop someone from trying to smuggle a bag in.
But I think that's just excessive. That's a big excessive. I mean, that's excessive.
All right, can I take us back? We asked for Mr. Grissom to come here,
Yep.
because we reviewed this once, and I think the question was, where did it come from?
Right.
Who's recommending it? Because there was a question about whether athletic directors should be recommending this as opposed to security.
Right.
Because it's a security issue, not an athletic director's issue.
Okay, the best way I can answer that is I recommended this probably 3 years ago with Dr. Moss, Dr. McCord, and we talked about it a lot way back then. We talked about the clear bag policy, we talked about no bag, which is what I suggested back then. It kind of went, we're not gonna, we'll just keep pushing it down the road, we're not gonna make a decision on it. So now here we are making a decision on it. I was asked what's my opinion on it. Do I think it makes sporting events safer? My response is this: for schools and middle schools, we have SROs, we have classes in our schools, we have craze training, we have locked classroom doors, we have canine searches, we have dress codes, we have IDs. One of those things by themselves does not make our schools safer, no. All those things combined make our schools safer, all those things. So the clear bag policy, do I think it makes our game safer? It's everything else that goes along with it that's gonna make our game safer.
Okay, and then where did the wording come from for what we have in here? Is this a national standard? Did it come from a college? That was another question.
It was copied mainly from other districts, and I believe,
There was Horry County, Richland County, Greenville County,
And-
Dorchester, I think there's like 10
there
different.
were 8 or 9, but we've heard recently a couple more have been added, so I think we're higher than 10 now. districts.
Well, the ones recently added, we couldn't have taken their wording.
But I think
So we wanna hear about
USC,
those.
almost everybody based it off what USC did, to be honest with you,
And
that I've
then Horry
seen.
County gave us theirs,
Yeah.
we looked at a lot of Horry County School District.
Just trying to figure out where the wording came from.
But we did look at the university to figure out, or to try to get a list of what you could and couldn't bring in, like to give guidance to people that were coming to events.
And as I recall, Will, you had a question about backpacks being allowed in the school, but
Right.
not at the event. You wanna?
Yeah, my concern is too as well, is that you got the student who's been in school all day long, he's been at school tutoring, he comes in the building, say the gym, for instance, I use for example, he's been at after school tutor, and there's a basketball game going on in the gym, and the student comes down there, and the student say, hey, look, I don't have a car, he doesn't drive, and he's going into the gym, and once the student goes into the gym, you're gonna say, look, kid, you can't come in here, and you can't bring your book bag. Then I can see where that can get computational. Where now you tell the student he can't bring his book bag in, and then the student and the parent, the student and the administrator get into it. I think this is a very computational issue. And then my question is, what do we do from there? What do we do with that student in that bag?
Well, in a high school, they could put it back in the locker. So they could have.
Kids.
They don't typically use lockers.
Yeah, kids don't particularly use lockers. And I mean, so if the kid's not, this kid uses a locker all year long, what do we do?
If I can tell you the issues I've heard other districts have had. So, that instance, I haven't heard that come up as an issue. What other districts talked about was, for the most part, it's been supported. Having a policy that's done evenly in all schools is a big deal, making sure that everybody is doing it the same way. When there's differences and people travel to different schools and they see it's being done differently, that's where they've had tension. I also heard one school district talk about in particular that cheerleaders and band members are issues, just because they always have bags, and if they come in with everybody else, it can be looked on badly. So what they did is started bringing cheerleaders and band members through another gate. Outside of that, I have not heard of this being a policy issue at other schools. Most of them said as long as you tell people before they get to the event, they suggest putting signs in the parking lot. They suggest having staff in the parking lot. So if you that sign saying wear a clear bag, for events, please make sure you put everything back in your car. And staff members kind of watching, and if they see anybody with a bag, just say, hey, by the way, we're a clear bag. Because usually, if people know, they're not too upset about it. It's when they walk all the way a long distance, get there, and someone says, you gotta go put that back in their car, and then they gotta walk all the way back.
That's not the answer though.
I'll give you
a short version of the answer. My problem is this. Just to be straight and simple, the school does not have a clear bag policy. So I think it's contrary to believe that we're going to tell this kid who walk around with the book bag all day long, a regular book bag, that they come to this game, now you need a clear bag policy. Now you need a clear bag to enter this game. I see this being a problem because after the game, those students are not allowed back in that building. If a student is going back in the building, that's another argument, that's a problem. So what if his locker is upstairs and he's going upstairs to get his book bag? He's not allowed in the building after these games. So I think there's been nothing that's shown us that this measurement will be 100% effective or totally effective as in security. That's the point of having police officers at games. That's the point of us paying for security. I don't think we foresee the problem to this point. And I think that this could bring more problems than what it did, bad than what it do good. At this point, safety, and I do respect safety, but I don't think this is a necessary move just because other people are doing it at USC. I respect them, but once again, we're not at USC, we're in Beaufort County, and we have our own standards. So I just don't support this motion. Or this policy.
Make sure you're opposed to the entire policy.
Yeah, I'm opposed to it. I'm opposed to it because what happens when little Bobby goes upstairs or little Bobby goes in the room and he puts his bag in the room and then someone slips something in his bag. Then and he gets charged for that. Then how do we justify it then? I just can't say.
I've given this a lot of thought. I don't think that we necessarily have to invent everything here, so it's good that you tried to glean what seems to work in other places. On the other hand, I get nervous when our particular needs, and every district has particular needs, may not have been taken into account. Okay? So my particular take on this, and my vote will reflect this, is that this policy is using a howitzer to shoot a squirrel. And I will vote against recommending this to the full board.
Well, I have two comments. One, I don't think you're voting on, well, I guess you'll give us some feedback is what you're gonna do. The second thing is, we have talked about kind of what's the difference between going into a game and into a school. One thing in a school, these are students that teachers and staff work with every day and kind of have a relationship and know who they are. When you talk about a game, it's open to the public, that we have no knowledge who these people are. We know no background, we probably don't know their name, don't know anything about them. So those are kind of two different scenarios. So that is kind of the difference between an athletic event and security for that as compared to security for students that you know, or staff should know who they are.
I just wanted to point out one thing that, I mean, yes, we have police officers at games, we have them in our high schools and our middle schools, but again, they're a small portion of our security. The security picture is much bigger than just having a police officer there. I know the clear bag policy, I hear what you guys are saying, but again, it's just a small component to make people at the game feel safer. How much safer it is, it's hard to tell. I mean, if I come to a game, my wife comes to a game, and she sees the clear bag policy, certainly she's gonna feel safer. She is. As opposed to somebody carrying a big old backpack and having no idea what's in it. Although the clear bag, same thing, you have no idea what's in it, but again, you're gonna feel safer. It's just a better environment all the way around. I mean, I go to a Cubs game when I'm home, same policy at a Cubs game. I can't walk in with a big old, I can't walk in with this to a Cubs game. And you're right, it's not very convenient. But safety is not very convenient, it's just not. Sometimes you have to be inconvenienced to be safe. That's why when I go to a Cubs game or a concert, there are long lines. We have to be screened, searched. You go through the airport, you gotta be patted down, stand in the thing, turn around. Is that very convenient? No, it's not. But it's, in our life nowadays, it's the way it has to be. And again, the clear bag is only the first step. There's gonna be other steps as the years go by. And I hate to say it, but eventually we're gonna have metal detectors. That's down the road. To think it's not gonna happen, you got your head in the sand. This is eventually gonna happen. All it's gonna take is for one event to have something happen, whether it be in our area, our state, or even nationally. It's gonna happen. And the clear bag policy is just the beginning of that, guys. And it's just a small thing.
Okay, I have a question. Who enforces this?
Well, there's no law, I mean, but the police officers will be there,
It
we're gonna have
says
administrators.
you have to leave and all this other stuff. Who does that?
Well, leaving, that becomes a police issue. If we ask them to leave, they don't, now they're trespassing, so that is a police issue now.
Most of your, football games, they have security up there.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to know, because you're gonna ask them to leave, and then they're not gonna be allowed back in athletic fields for the remainder of the season. And does somebody look in these clear bags as the answer?
No, there's nobody inspecting the clear bags. No. That's why I said at the beginning of my little talk, I'm for no bag. You know, if it's my choice, I'm saying no bag at all.
So nobody
But
looks.
that's me.
Nobody looks in the clear bag,
No.
except the people sitting around.
You know, when I go to the Bluffton, right. When I go to
You pay for your ticket.
the place across from McCracken, the boys club or whatever it is, they have a clear bag policy. But when people walk in there with those clear bags, I look, I'm like, I don't know what's in that bag. They got their shirts, their jackets, whatever in there. I could hide a knife, I could hide a gun. Again, it's not a cure-all for everything. It's just a small part of it, what we're trying to do, that's all.
And there are some districts that are really
Yeah, it just seems ironic to me. Nobody's looking in the bag. It's clear that nobody's looking.
Right.
But the second thought I had was the people sitting next to you are gonna look, and if they see something.
Yeah, absolutely, that's a good point, yeah.
I just want to say that I don't object per se to a clear bag policy. And I believe that our board is second to none in its appreciation and devotion to security. But I think this needs work, particularly things like number 4, you know.
I think that's a little harsh, I do.
I mean,
I think that's a little harsh for the remainder of the season.
well,
Excessive.
that's what we wanted, is your
Yeah.
opinion.
I think that's
Good
ours.
thing, Mr. Dowd.
Okay.
Remainder of the game.
You know, when I had the basketball game in Beaufort, I mean, they were told no trespassing for a period of time. We ended up making it like 3 games or 5 games. We didn't say, you can't ever come back to your daughter's football, basketball game for the entire season.
I would
So we,
I would just like to see it looked at again, line by line, in the context of what works best for Beaufort County School District, not necessarily for the state as a whole, which seems to have been the thrust of your choice of words.
Well, what I was gonna say is I've read several games, different districts, and some of them, they tell you, when you go and get your ticket, you can't take anything in there, nothing at all. Like the Charleston area,
You can't take anything?
nothing.
You brought up a great point, about the metal detectors. If it's that serious, and we have law enforcement, why just not get metal detectors and put metal detectors at doors, and that way you come with any bag, and that take care of the whole thing. And I mean, and then you know everybody is safe, because I can say for me, for certain, I go to these games, I don't feel safe. The only time I remember anyone ever telling me that they felt unsafe in Beaufort County was last year at Beaufort High graduation, when we had no police officers there. Then a couple people asked me, and I remember seeing a graduation, where's the officers at graduation? Other than that, I don't ever remember anyone saying that they don't feel safe. So if it's that important, then why not get metal detectors and put them at the door and detect people when they come in, and you can have a clear bag, gray bag, blue bag, whatever bag you want, and be done with it.
Just a couple comments. I think there's a huge difference between feeling safe and being safe. I know a lot of, that's also used a lot, oh, you should feel safe. Well, you know, feeling safe is, to me, meaningless. I want to be safe. Second thing is, I think it sounds like from the discussion here that you might be better off not having non-transparent bags that were searched versus these clear bags that are not searched. I mean, that's another thing. And I think I'd be of the mindset, like you said, no bags. That would be my mindset. Because I don't think you're really accomplishing what you want to with clear bags. That's my opinion.
I agree if nobody's looking at them.
Yeah,
We're searching takes time.
right. And searching is huge. So the easiest way to handle that is no bags.
no bags.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are we gonna go from here? You're gonna go back and look at this and try to,
We're gonna work on it some more. We're also gonna look at the homebound student. Thank you both for bringing that up. That's important about the special needs students.
well, for the clear bag, you're gonna
We'll
look at it, see if we can change the wording, make it less harsh on enforcement, or perhaps
No bag.
recommend no bag. That's your decision.
We'll talk
Certainly,
about
I could visit one of the communities that have the no bag policy, go to a football game on these Friday nights, and just see how it's working for them, and report back to you.
I just wanna,
Idea, yes.
this is a security concern, so I'm looking.
I'll do that, I'll do that.
Make the recommendation.
Maybe not this Friday, I'm going to Bluffton,
Is that okay?
but maybe the Friday after.
Yeah.
I don't want.
I don't mind working
We'll
there.
table this one.
Security to make the recommendation.
What Mr. Grisham just said, he said he could go and look at it, and see how someone else, to be quite honest, as a board member, I'm not really worried about what Charleston does. I'm not worried about what Collin County does, because at the end of the day, we're Beaufort County, and the makeup of our counties is different. And everyone has a different, like as a board member, I have a different type of part of county, as Beaufort County, that I serve. So, I'm not, the same thing with USC, that's because we can go with this policy just because USC goes with it. The question is it for us, and is it something that we need, that we need? You know, I don't wanna go in an ant pile and scatter it out if it doesn't need to be scattered. That's just my point. So, how another, to make a long story short, how another county handles or how they deal with it, it's irrelevant to me. Is this policy necessary or is it not necessary? That's it. That's my take on it.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I don't know what the library's policy is on the conference rooms. I know that we're pretty good about the big room, but the library closes in 15 minutes.
Oh.
We're internal to the
Oh, yeah, we are, yeah.
facility, so I don't know if we're gonna get the move or not.
So at 3 minutes of, we'll see where we are.
And we
And
take
that will give us our future topics and recap. Because there are a lot of things we left off this agenda.
I just want to be clear, guys, did you want me to visit a football game in the community, or not our
You
community,
do
but
whatever
somewhere
you
else?
have to
Yeah,
do to make a
exactly.
Get more
recommendation.
I think I will.
information, we do the right
Maybe not
thing.
this Friday,
You
next Friday.
decide what you have to do.
Okay, okay.
Definitely want to do the
Okay.
next.
Okay,
Have a good night, guys.
thanks for the.
Thank you, Mr. Chris.
Thank you.
Random drug testing of students.
Sure, sure, absolutely. Give it to you.
57.
Thank you.
We gotta get to the operating point.
That's what I was gonna ask, is if we can bump it, if we start running out of time.
Oh, God, change this.
Okay, so, the next, the random drug testing of students, we have made revisions to it because as the board is aware, during our budget sessions, the funding for the random drug testing, it was reduced by 50%. And Dr. Rodriguez has designated to Mr. Otting as his
Yeah, my
designee
son.
to be responsible for the administration of the drug testing program. I will go over the revisions with you all. The second page, item 4, students subject to random drug testing program, we deleted beginning August 2015 and beginning August 2016 because those are no longer relevant. On the next, let's see, they're not numbered, on number 5.3, delegation to Chief Operations Officer, Dr. Rodriguez delegates management authority of this program to the Chief Operating Officer. And we changed, in item C, we have the COO is responsible for this program, and the students will be, there will be no advance notification given prior to administration testing, and he will be notifying, and Robert, if you can tell everybody about how the procedure works as far as doing the drug testing. And then item H is when it says 10% instead of 50% to the reduction of the budgeting. So Robert, could you just briefly explain what the procedures are so everybody understands?
Excuse me, I'll make a motion that we table this because this discussion, before we even get into it, I looked at the time, we don't even have, by the time he give us, it'll be close to about 7, almost 6:55.
Okay.
In all fairness, I think we need to table this conversation.
Second.
I'm not sure we can, okay. We'd have to table Ahara and table the new development rezoning in order to get to the easement. So we
Both should
motions
be
to do that.
Suggestion, what was your concern again, I'm sorry?
We can't
Gateway
change the
too much?
order of the agenda.
Huh?
We can't change the order of the agenda, so I just learned that this weekend.
Right, right.
So we have to table the Ahara, and we would have to table new development rezoning so that we could get to easement for Osprey Point, which is time sensitive, I believe. I can't make those motions.
So you,
Mr. Pulte is waiting outside.
right, so you said, which one is time sensitive?
Osprey Point.
Easement.
So we need a motion to table Ahara, and we need a motion to table the new development rezoning.
I make a motion that we table Ahara and the new development, the new development rezoning.
Second, that's changed. Yeah, now we can get to the easement of Osprey Point.
Robert,
And we've got about 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah.
But as I recall, we
We've
got,
got 3.
oh, I'm the only one that actually said something about this.
There's a chair over there.
Yeah, I'm sure about that last week.
so I'm going to pass out the plan and we'll briefly go over it with everybody and then go over the easement document.
Everybody heard, what's that? Yeah, there's a small one in the packet. I think everybody heard me talk about this at the board meeting. What the question was the easement final agreement finalized? And I believe the answer to that, Wendy, is yes. Now it is finalized?
Yes, as of Friday afternoon, we have an easement that is in compliance with all the ordinances and statutes. We have a survey that has been completed by a registered land surveyor. We have the meets and the bounds, we've got it documented, and the grantee has agreed to keep all the improvements to the road and the property and to do, not to scheduling work unless there's an emergency, so we don't have any interference with our school operations. And so now this easement is in order, and we explain that under law, the school district cannot provide any indemnity, we're prohibited from doing that. So we now have an easement document that after the board approves it, the Dr. Rodriguez can sign, and it will be recorded. And
So do I need to go any more detail about what I talked about at the board meeting, or are there any questions?
You're right, the question was the contract.
Yeah, and so now,
and you're, you are. Hey, Chuck. Yeah. So Charles, I've been emailing
he was
you
at
back
the
and
board meeting
forth.
too, and I didn't
You
realize.
probably think it's very difficult
We're
for
gonna
you
have
to deal
time,
with.
so
No, here we go.
Can't
No,
have this courtesy.
we're not gonna be, I just
So
want
does
to
anybody have any
courtesy.
questions for us, or
Thank
anything you
for
want me
all
to
your
go over in greater
cooperation. Yes,
detail?
sir. I appreciate it.
Questions?
Everybody feel like they understand what's going on with the agreement? I'm only skipping due to time, so.
You just got that.
Good.
So this will be recorded, and what we're going to do is all of our easement requirements will be posted on the website so that there won't be any confusion about what's required.
You can't just have them sign it, you have to bring it to the board.
Well, I think we need a motion out of the committee to take this board.
But you can't just have them sign it and place it.
Because that's what Ms. Orshak asked, is just come back to the committee.
Yeah. I appreciate that too. That's good.
No, I suggested.
Oh, did you? Oh, I'm sorry.
I apologize.
That's right.
Somebody.
All right, so we have a motion, do we have a motion to
Yeah.
move this to hold the word?
I move that we recommend the board approval. Is that what we're looking for? Recommend approval of
Granting of the easement.
the easement for Osprey.
LCP the third.
Huh?
LCP the third LLC is up. That's the easement, so the development company.
There'll be an attachment for the docs. Yeah, you're right, that's what it was. There was a question about who it was.
Second.
Second. 3-0. All right, let's,
I have just a couple of questions. Is this an age-restricted development?
It is on.
It is not. Okay. And is the development contract due to expire?
Explain
The permits, approval from the town?
that. It's in the county, so Beaufort County.
And have you, does your agreement fall under any senior improvement
impact fee.
impact fees?
There is an impact fee, the county-wide impact fees will apply, and in addition, there is an additional impact fee in the development agreement for the school district.
All right, so, future topics.
Do you want to do my construction update real quick? Well, I don't know.
They're gonna push us back.
Yeah, all right, I'll stop.
Yeah, we will have to,
Yeah, the pictures are nice, thanks. Future topics. We tabled a bunch of things, we have to go back over. And also, we moved quite a few things from our agenda the last time, including St. Helena Gym, start time proposals. Remember all those things?
yes, sir, I was wondering that today, but yes, sir.
Yeah, we removed quite a few things that we're gonna have to deal with, so, I mean, I'm not sure if you wanna have
Maybe 2 meetings?
another meeting,
Yes, sir.
and, instead of waiting a month.
Yeah,
Start time, St. Helena L. Review the need for a P, we did this in police and board meetings. We have a bunch of things we really need to deal with.
When would you envision this next meeting?
You tell me when you're available. I mean,
Next week, well, we've got a board meeting next Tuesday, correct?
Board meeting on Tuesday.
Other
So
than that,
we'll do that. I'll send out an email and ask you, but that's why I'm asking, because we have a lot of things
Yeah,
that we
I
have
need
to
to
deal with, and I don't think we can wait.
okay.
September 11th, I believe, would be the next scheduled meeting, second Wednesday.
Yeah, I
Right.
don't remember.
Well, in the meantime, you'll send out that email and we get back to you, to the chair, and we decide.
We'll decide. We just, the plates are full.
Yeah.
Move to adjourn.
second.
Okay, everybody agrees with that.